Oh man, today was a big patch, I must say. So there weren't very many champion changes actually. I believe there was only like 5 or 6 total champion changes, but then there was the big Tom Kench rework and then the mini they called it adjustments for Viego. So the Tom Kench is
Mhm.
actually going to be banned for today from all play for today and tomorrow in Heavy League as well just because he is almost like a new champion now with his abilities being switched around. So we don't have to talk about Tom Kench that much, but Viego and then the new items specifically. So Viego obviously is going to be enabled. Mundo is also going to be enabled for today as well. So that's going to be, I believe we didn't see any Mundo last night. So we could be having our first Excellency new Mundo today in mid league. So I have, like you were saying earlier, Gunjin, the new mage, well, not new mage items. They made all the mage items cheaper just because of how weak they have been in the season so far. So that almost pushes it more into a mage support meta. I'm thinking because how much cheaper they are. You can now buy Everfrost with the components just for 250 gold. You can usually get that in about 2 minutes, maybe even less. So that almost pushes it more into a mage support meta, like I was saying, which is not something we've had in many years, actually.
Yeah, the last time I can really remember that mage support meta was during, I believe it was season 7 when we saw the Samsung versus the SKT Zyra bot lane versus Misfortune bot lane meta at Worlds, which I thought was super cool and super exciting to watch. And I kind of agree with you. I think that the nerf, or not the nerfs, the buffs to the combined cost for all of these mage items is going to be really big, kind of boosting that support mages, boosting also the mid lane mages. I know a lot of champions were kind of struggling to hit that first item spike. So now with this buff to mage items and something that we haven't even talked about is also the nerfs to all of these mobility items.
Yes.
Thank prayers up, Cam, that no more
Oh
will
my
set
gosh.
jump on top of me, slow me, suplex me, pile drive me, stone cold stunner, Steve Austin. I'm slowed for 99%. I can't move. I can't do anything. Thank whatever holy pack is out there that
Oh
a lot
man.
of these mobility items have been nerfed, and so there's a lot of movement ability that's kind of been taken out of the game that benefits a lot of these mages because again we saw the phase rush nerf about a couple patches ago that really hampered mages like the Victor, mages like the Oriana that weren't able to kind of move around as much, and now with the mage item buffs with mobility being toned down a little bit, a lot of these no mobility mages might rise up in the meta, champions like the Cassio, the Oriana, the Victor, and that's going to kind of benefit both of these teams because they play a lot of mages in the mid lane and in the support position.
Yeah, absolutely. And then they also, thank goodness, they changed the support items as well. So Shirelia's nerfed. It's a movement speed item. And then Moonstone, again, I believe for the second or third patch in a row now, is going to be buffed once again. So there's more healing, there's more shielding, there's more stacks available for it as well. So we're definitely looking, I would say, like you were saying, to that mage, either support or mage in the mid lane, with that being a Seraphine or some other Karma, Lulu, something like that that can go either that Leanders for the damage or the Moonstone, as they're both very cheap items now, especially for these support champions, and they're both very powerful in themselves as well.
No, 100%. I totally agree with you. We are going to be sending it to draft in a little bit, but I do want to talk about the 2 new items that have come out, and I kind of want you
Yes.
to break them down with me. I think the big one is going to be Hullbreaker, in my opinion. What are your thoughts on that item?
So I'm not too sure if their names yet. I know what they do. Hullbreaker is the split pushing tanky one, right?
Yes.
Okay, so
Yes.
that one, they're trying to make split pushing more of a meta, in a meta where dragons, I believe, are the most controlling
Hmm.
factors. Where if you're split pushing and there's 1.5 minutes left on a dragon, you're kind of doing it wrong. Where you need to be there for these dragons, especially if it's that third or fourth dragon for that soul. It's just, yes, you can take a tower or two, but then you could take 3 or 4 towers if you get that soul. So yes, they're trying to put split pushing back in the game, but I'm yet to see it really have much of an impact.
Cam, are you saying the gates are not going to be here in mid league? Are you saying that I'm not going to be able to breach the gates? As a Mr. Yorick fan in the top lane, I don't know why I like that champion. I think he just is so unloved that I feel for him. I'm excited for this item. I think it's going to do a lot of wonders. I do think it's probably a second item rush, but I think that it can add some kind of strategic opportunities where if you don't feel like you can contest the dragons because they have that big team fight AoE wombo comp,
Yeah, yeah.
you can really break down those towers a lot quicker. So it kind of adds some spice In terms of the other item, which is Athenema's chains, I think I'm pronouncing that right as a color. I don't think I have to say that item ever again. It has a nemesis effect that reduces the amount of
Oh
damage you
yeah.
take from a certain target and increases the amount of the reduced tenacity when you're near them. I think it's gonna be super good as kind of a second item. You can probably just choose it if you're like if you're like a tank that's versing a split pusher. You probably just put it on that character and be like, okay, dude, like just chill out. I'm just gonna farm. We're just waiting for team fights anyway. I think it also can be really good on maybe like a third item on champion like Leona. I think that would be a cool kind of
Oh.
advantage because it is really cheap. It's only 2,500, so it's a really cool item. It gives ability hits, it gives health, super low combined cost, and a lot of items that supports like Kindle Gem and Giant Spell. So I'm excited to see this item. Maybe add some spice in the bot lane because if a Leona jumps on top of me, takes less damage than I ever deal as an AD carry, and then is CCing me for even longer, Cam, I don't know how I can exist. But here we are. I am going to throw it over to a little bit of a break before we get into game number 1 versus No Fear Wolves. Oh, we're here. We're here to draft. No breaks, Cam. We're going right into draft. We're going right into it. And No Fear Wolves has elected to choose the blue side. Fever will be on the red. And what are some of the champions you expect to see in this draft, in this pick and ban phase?
Oh, that's really hard. I could usually say champions, but on a new patch with so many changes and so many updates, it's actually really hard because usually I would be looking towards that Gwen, towards that Viego, and now lately towards that Ezreal, especially being that first pick. But now with Sundara being so heavily nerfed, Ezreal is kind of just completely thrown out of the meta now. So yes, he's still a pretty strong ADC, but nowhere near as strong as he was just 24 hours ago. So going back to the Gwen and the Viego, I still definitely think they're very strong, both also going to be a little bit nerfed by the movement speed, and Viego obviously being more nerfed with the Sundara nerfs as well. Just, I'm not exactly sure which champions, just because of how much the meta has changed literally today.
I think that the Ezreal nerfs have definitely, I think they're a little bit overplayed. I think that he's still a strong pick and we will see them from the side of No Fear Wolves. I think the 3% damage reduction, I think he's just so safe and that he augments comp so much because he is this hyper scaling AD that doesn't need a lot of gold and kind of just hyper scales up. He's super safe as well. So if you want to play weak side bot lane, he can get it done. I do think he has some matchups that are difficult, like champions like the Tristana, the Lucian, that kind of jump on him and burst him down. So we are going to see the Tristana being banned out. For the side of Fever, a Hecarim pickup. Cam, I do not like this. Cam, I am. What do you feel about the Hecarim? We have memed about Zongi's season 10 champion pool. It has been buffed in recent patches. It is a little bit tankier, but it's not that horse that we saw running around the meta a couple patches ago.
Yes, so they have been buffing him. He wasn't buffed today, but as a champion that scales off of movement speed, picking him on a patch where they literally nerfed every single movement speed item, I don't know. But then they also picked Caitlyn as well. So Caitlyn, I'm actually convinced Caitlyn is finding her way back into the meta. Maybe not in the top 3 ADCs as of yet, but definitely in the top 5, just because of her super long range, super easy way to have any pressure and any poke in lane, and then being able to siege from towers long distances away, being able to safely kite out fights, has definitely found its way into the meta, especially now that movement speed items have been nerfed today. And then a few more picks coming out that I'm interested for.
Yeah, No Fear Wolves is going to lock in the Udyr Karma combo in the second round of their picks. Fever is going to counter that with the Thresh pickup. So a lot of picks and bans, especially priority in that bot lane. And I agree with you. I was going to mention that now with kind of those support mage items maybe being buffed, we might see champions like the Caitlyn Zyra comp. Just that heavy poke, burst down towers, kind of just play for early plates and then run around the maps and just gather plate gold. But we will be seeing the Thresh a little bit more safer, a lot more engaged, maybe can lock down a lot of these comps. And this is what I was talking about when I said that No Fear Wolves goes for holy comps. They pick champions that require augmentation. So they like playing stuff like the Karma. I assume this Karma will be going bot lane for Jushbox, but we have seen the Karma have that flexibility. So I'm excited to see what No Fear Wolves counteract with. They're going to ban out the Set, and Fever are going to respond with the Wukong and the Morgana ban.
Yes, so Fever show that they are not expecting this Karma to be support. And if they are, then they're expecting that Morgana to be somewhere else. So the Karma, still a very powerful pick, probably even more powerful now with the Moonstone buffs as well. She can go top, she can go mid, she can go support, and with an Ezreal as well, she's definitely going to be, like you're saying, that champion that you need to be able to make sure that he is as powerful as you need him to be, as yes, he was a little bit nerfed today with the Sunder, but that's a Kale. I like the Kale. I like the Kale.
Cam, I've become a Kale main in the past couple weeks.
No.
I'm so excited for this pick. I think she's so incredibly strong if she's not punished. I'm surprised Fever are going to take her before they see the mid lane matchup, because blind picking Kale seems incredibly suspect. That is like, a Fever have done a lot of suspect things in pick and ban, but this is like, why? But I'm excited to see it because I love this champion so much. I think she hyperscales so well. She does so much damage as the game goes on. And this might be a pick you can get away with versus No Fear Wolves, because they're not a comp that do play too aggressively in the early game. Like I mentioned, they're kind of a comp that tries to scale up into the late game. But if you can't force out against the Kale, once she hits that level 11 mark, she's going to be such a big problem, because everyone on No Fear Wolves has to run into the Kale, and Kale will just cleave you apart.
Absolutely. And now we get to see that Sion, and that last pick is going to be a Vigar as well to match that Kale scaling. So this is going to be a 50-minute banger game right here. Who's going to scale harder, this Vigar with the Karma or this Kale with the whoever they pick last, which is probably not going to be another Enchanter support her. But I want to look at the Sion pick here, as we were actually talking about this before the stream started, where Sion, he's going to be very strong with that new split pushing item, where it was already like the Inting Sion memed strategy, where yes, you can run down top lane with your passive no matter what, and you're gonna get towers with Sion. And then they just gave him a whole new item to be able to do that even better. That seems like they're definitely going to be looking to build that new Hull Breaker, I believe it's called.
Are you saying that this game, the gates will be opened, Cam? Are you? Because I mean, we see Udyr, we have the Sion, we have Hullbreaker, so I'm excited. Fever are gonna round out their kind of holy comp that they're going for with this Ornn pickup, saying, you know what, if we're going late, I guess we're going all out, picking the Ornn, getting that augmentation on those items. And now with all of the comp set up, now with all the lane matchups set up, what do you think that either of these teams kind of want to attack in terms of lane-wise, or in terms of what the junglers want to focus, especially in that early game?
Well, I think that was definitely decided for us, as you're focusing on your Vigar, you're focusing on your Kale, and if you're putting resources in anyone else on this draft, what are you doing for the past 30, or for the last 30, what am I saying? For 30 minutes and past that. Because past that 30 minutes, yes, your Ezreal's going to be doing damage. Yes, I guess your Hecarim could be doing damage, but nowhere near as much as your Kale or your Vigar. So late game, it's going to be between these two players.
Yeah, 100%. I agree. I think that Veigar and Kale will kind of augment how this game flows, because you have these ticking time bombs on both sides. I will say, in terms of scaling, I do favor Fever's comp. For the side of No Fear Wolves, they spike at that 2-item to 3-item spike, because once the 3 to 4 item spike starts coming around, the Caitlyn starts outranging the Veigar cages. The Kale will just start cleaving anyone apart, and so it's going to be really hard if the game ends up going late. So I really want No Fear Wolves to kind of hit the gas pedal this game and try to focus on that dragon stacking. We've seen dragon stacking being a really big kind of win condition for a lot of teams, and when you can't try to end the game and you can force them to fight you without having their items, without having Kale at that level 16 mark, that's going to be big for the side of No Fear Wolves. So for the side of No Fear Wolves, they have to attack early, get that dragon stacking up. For the side of Fever, I think as long as they stay even and or a little bit behind, they are completely fine, because this comp scales so well, because Caitlyn and Kale at level 16 will be hitting you from 800 range. You're an Udyr Sion trying to walk in with a Karma shield, and you're just going to be sad. So I'm excited to see how this game goes, but it feels like we're kind of switching up stylistic, because Fever are kind of playing that long form style, when No Fear Wolves are going to have to really press the pedal to the metal to really get something done in the early game, so they don't just get outscaled.
Yeah, and I mean something else interesting to note here is No Fear Wolves. I definitely think with that sound and the Vigar picks, they are really going for that new items today. Like just going for what are these new items for today going to give us? As Vigar, being that mage, is going to be buffed by whatever mage item he decides to build. Having it be, I believe they were all buffed by about 200 gold. So having that item about 2 minutes before potentially whoever he is landing against, I guess it's going to be a kill mid. I'm not sure. Is it? Yeah, it is kill mid. All right, so that is going to be that Vigar versus Kale mid that I did not see in the draft beforehand. So it is definitely going to be both of these scaling picks just landing against each other. Should be very interesting.
And we didn't even talk about the biggest Vagar buff on this patch, Cam. Astronaut Vagar is out. It is adorable.
Okay.
It is amazing. It needs to be showcased. I hope Cute Raiju has
That's
the
why mage
RP.
items are buffed.
when mage items come around, you get the Vagar and Corki buffs. Thank you, Papa Riot, for blessing. I'm excited to see it. I'm excited to see what they end up doing in the early game. In terms of just overall focus, I think it's going to be really imperative to see what these junglers do. We are getting that season 10 junglers. We didn't see a Xin Zhao. We didn't see the Xin Zhao ban, but we didn't see something like, I believe, actually the Volibear was banned, but it was banned second round, so I'm going to excuse that. We didn't see something kind of aggressive in the early game, because we're seeing a lot more aggression. We're seeing a lot more kind of, I mean, even Vi is kind of popping up in the meta, because it feels like right now, if you can get fights going and stack those dragons, you just force the enemy team into such a bad position. So it's going to be really interesting to see what No Fear Wolves does, because they don't have anything that really immediately starts fights or presses go besides Sion. But there are times where Sion can kind of run a little bit too far for his own good. So I'm excited to see. We do have a little bit of a lane switch up. We do have Skiz in the jungle and Cornstar filling in for that top lane. We didn't talk about it, but it is one of their substitutes. Skiz has played jungle before, so it's going to be interesting to see what he wants to do, especially in the early game. But I'm super excited. Cam, I want predictions. I don't want, I think one team wins. I don't think this team wins. Who are you going for game number 1?
Who am I picking? Well, who am I thinking? I really like No Fear Wolves comp, honestly. I know you were saying you like Fever's comp, but early game, if No Fear Wolves finds any lead, and their comp is definitely built more for early game, that Vigar, that Ezreal will be way stronger, especially in that mid game, than that Kale, just because it takes her so long to hit that level 11 and then afterwards that level 16. So I'm definitely going to be going towards No Fear Wolves for this game if you want a 100% solid answer.
I will say, if Providence takes the cleanse in the mid lane matchup, he should be okay. If he doesn't, because I've seen it before, I've seen a lot of players be like, I'm going against Lysandre Twisted Fate, I'm not taking cleanse, I'm taking teleport. Woo! Teleport around the map. Providence is gonna take cleanse. I know of it. I believe in him as a Kale main, one Kale main to another. I believe in him. I think that Fever will take this game out, but it's close. I think that Fever has kind of the tools to really scale up. I'm excited to see what Zara does with this Kaelin Thresh pickup. We didn't talk about the bot lane a lot, but they have a lot of kind of turret pressure early on, so it's going to be really imperative on Zongi to make sure that he covers this bot lane, because if one side of the matchup falls, if the Caitlyn Thresh can't just start kind of walking around the map and getting plates and getting early leads and maybe securing that first couple dragon, it's going to be hard, and it's going to be kind of, it's gonna be a oof. That's what I'll say. No flame here, just an oof. But we are gonna be transitioning into game number 1 with Icarus and Mac Dewey. We will be right back with game number 1 between No Fear Wolves and Fever. See you then.
We're back, ladies and gentlemen. We've got another interview going on here with one of the members from one of our second place teams here today. Fever, go ahead and introduce yourself, my man. Let me get that IGN, the role you play for your team. And I'd always like to ask, what's a little bit of the personality that you think you bring to the team behind the scenes that we don't always get to see?
Hello, my IGN is RiceEveryMeal. I play support for Fever. And I guess the personality on the team, I shot call some mid-game plays. In team fights, I'm pretty vocal. So, yeah. I talk a lot. I think I should probably agree. Maybe too much sometimes, I don't know.
Hey, if you're going to be the shot caller, you would hope that your teammates would agree with that, right? It makes your job a lot easier as the person who's trying to make the plays.
Yeah.
I want to look back at last week before we look at this week here a little bit. You guys just faced off against CB Rush. You're one of 2 teams throughout the entire tournament league here so far to be able to take a game off of this team, but unfortunately you guys did end up dropping 1-2 versus the current reigning kings of the mid league here. I want to ask, looking back on last week's performance, do you guys feel like you did your best and just fell short a little bit, or do you have very clear ideas of ways that you can improve looking towards playoffs in the next couple of weeks?
Yeah, that series versus them. Honestly, if you watch the stream, whoever got ahead in early game, they just rolled. Blue side's OP, I guess, also. 3 on that series. But yeah, I think the series is actually close. If it went best of 5, it's ours, I think. In my opinion, because it was that close. So I felt good about that series, even though it was 1-2. So, and they're a really good team, so it's good to know that we can take a game off them. And we're not just shit talking for no reason, you know.
Hello, summoners. Welcome on to the Rift for game number 1 between the 2 teams tied for number 2, Icarus. It's No Fear Wolves taking on Fever, and boy, oh boy, do we have some spicy compositions to start this Block 3 series out. Viger versus Kale in the mid lane, Sion versus Ornn in the top lane. Have I been transported back to like early season 11, season 10?
I have no idea what's going on with some of these drafts here, Mac, dude. To be honest with you, it just feels like No Fear Wolves was listening to a bit of our pre-show, because they banned out the 3 picks that CB Rush also banned out last week, and they went straight for the throat on the Xayah, Tristana, and Volibear that we talked about in the early stages of our pregame here. And with that, we see the Hecarim return coming in from Zongi here, and that's where I have a lot of questions, because it's been nerfed. I mean, Cam talked about it a little bit. Movement speed being nerfed as well across the board means that it's going to be so difficult for Zongi to get off the floor here, because he's going to be getting diminishing returns in this new patch of the week here, when all that move speed has been just slowly nerfed away here.
Yeah, and we see Providence getting a sneaky little ward there by the Raptors camp, but the No Fear Wolves have spotted it, Icarus. So I'm going to be interested to see if Skiz is going to change up his pathing a little bit. We heard Gunjin, the Kale one trick, talk about the pick a little bit, and he was hoping Providence was going to be locking in the cleanse, but instead he goes for teleport, as we do see Skiz Icarus avoid the ward.
The one thing that I am super curious to see here, as you mentioned, is going to be how this Kale and Ornn solo lanes are going to be able to fare into the Vigar and Sion here, MacDewey, because you have double scaling in both of your solo laners here that aren't going to provide a whole lot until at least level 6 for Zongi to make pressure on this Hecarim in the early game. Now, Hecarim does like the power farm until level 6 himself, which is a fair and fine strategy, but it does allow for you to get scaling going on this Ezreal. It does allow for you to get scaling going on this Vigar as well. The hook landing.
Oh my goodness!
Oh my!
First blood going over to Fever Icarus, the level 2 advantage, and a perfect engage from the bot lane duo.
Man, Evil Zara must have been listening to that pre-show as well, because he comes out here, he's like, they said I can't play laning phase. They think that I don't know how to fight in the bottom lane. Takes the level 2 fight with RiceEveryMeal and is able to pick up first blood for himself there. On top of that, he's able to deny a massive wave on the bottom side. So we already see a 15 CS differential coming in here for Evil Zara, who already puts up those numbers that we were talking about when it comes to the CS, and he is going to be so strong. He picks up a couple of long swords. He's going to be coming back to this lane with even more early game power. And if there's anything that Caitlyn's good at, it's those very first few levels of the laning phase and the late game. So accelerating yourself in this early stage is hopefully going to help mitigate some of this weaker mid game for Evil Zara.
We see Skiz heading into the mid lane. It is going to be a 2-on-2 as Zongi's here as well. A level advantage for the horse is going to mean Skiz decides to back off away from the mid lane. Right now, the bottom lane in favor of Fever, as you were talking about, Icarus, and things getting a little interesting across the map as Fever not doing too bad so far.
Fever is holding up fairly well here in the early game. I want to point out that both TL, Providence, and Stubby have been keeping up in their CS despite playing these scaling laners. I do want to go towards this top side of the map and focus on it just a little bit more, but hold on, we have a gank in the mid lane.
Providence gonna try to flash away from this one, but the Phoenix Bird is going under the turret, and Skiz is gonna be able to pick up a kill. But Icarus, it's a 1-for-1 in Providence on the scaling. Kale is gonna be able to get boots off of the kill as Stubby in the top lane able to pick up another kill. Fever are popping off in the solo lanes.
We were talking a little bit off screen here, Mac Dewey. We haven't seen the Stubby or Jess quite yet. And we were surprised to see it being the counter pick here in that R5 slot for the draft. And apparently he does know how to play it, because I had no idea that volcanic rupture was going to kill there onto Cornstar. So he knows his damages, has the confidence to flash forward, and so far this is the early game stages of Fever, the team that we said likes to scale up, likes to ramp towards these later stages. But when they find these early game fights, when they're able to make these early game trades go in their favor and then find themselves these 3 kills, it's looking very scary here for No Fear Wolves, because you're still facing down this Kale. You're still facing down the ornaments once Stubby hits that level 13 mark. So it's only going to get scarier the longer this game goes, and you can't be giving over these kinds of early game leads to the side of Fever.
Zongi not responding to this dragon attempt by the No Fear Wolves, and with this early favored composition, Icarus, I feel like this is exactly what they need to do to try to get a lead in this game, to try to recover from some of these lanes not really going their way.
And that's just a great takeaway there by Skiz. He was able to sneak his way into that pit when the bottom side of Fever was able to reset here. So he goes into that pit, drops down the pink ward, doesn't completely underneath the veil of darkness, the fog of war here. Pops out of the map. Zongi is trying to steal away those wolves. I would have liked to see him go for the Gromp instead, just a little bit of an easier in and an easier out. However, I like to see that he's still going for those aggressive plays. He hasn't been able to participate in any fights just quite yet, is waiting for that level 6 onslaught of shadows before he starts to influence these lanes. And once he starts getting access to that ultimate, I would like to see him go towards this mid lane now that TL Providence is level 6 on this scale, has access to that divine judgment, and it means that you're going to be able to have the pony jumping in with the invulnerability. Easiest dives of your life if you're Zongi here.
Yeah, Unstoppable, by the way, I believe should be able to go right through the baby cage of Cute Raichu and really just CC chain the Vigor in Oblivion, lock down the immobile mage. Sure, some of the items have been adjusted here in the latest patch to make it a little bit easier for these mages to get their mythics online, but Icarus, the positioning from Cute Raichu throughout this game is going to have to be on point, because Fever have drafted themselves the tools to really get onto that back line.
And if we're looking towards those mid to late game fights here, Mac Dewey, it comes down to so many engaged options and pick potential coming in for the hands of Fever here. You have the Call of the Forge shot from downtown by Stubby. If that doesn't work, you can always throw in the Onslaught of Shadows. And meanwhile, those are a couple of ultimate options, but you still have to keep your eyes out for these death sentences. RiceEveryMeal, he's had this Thresh banned away from him several times throughout the tournament because he's just so good at finding picks. And we saw it was the result of the first blood going over to Fever when he was able to find that level 2 versus the level 1 death sentence into the Flay. He knows how to pilot this champion, and he can make picks happen from the fog of war as we just continue to look around the map. I want to point out the ward coverage that's coming in here for Fever. They have 4 pink wards across the map. I asked them to increase their vision score. I asked them to do a better job of warding out their opponents here, and they have already delivered upon that ask.
And Evil Zara, I feel like already with just his traps, Icarus is applying so much pressure in the bot lane, making life difficult. Epic Fail Guy, only about 50 CS here at the 8.5 minute mark, not where the former All-Pro ADC from last season is really usually at, as we see Zongi's going to be starting up this Rift Herald.
This is just that early game aggression coming in here for Fever. They like to go for these topside Rift Heralds. They're the only team in the league, Mac Dewey, that has an average of 2 Rift Heralds a game. That means in a majority of games, they're able to pick up both Shellys for themselves. And that's a very interesting stat to be able to pull out here, but one that needs to be noted here. They like to play around these early Rift Heralds. They like to be able to pick it up at this 8-9 minute mark, use it to crash into one of these lanes, pick up those extra platings, and then pick up up the second Rift Herald in order to pressure mid lane, going for the later stages, the mid stages of this game, and fighting around the dragons. We do have a teleport coming in by Stubby here. They're going to look for a dive.
Zongi's going way under the turret, and Primordial Blast not used. Cute Raichu not picking up the kill. He's saving it for a juicier target. The stun catches RiceEveryMeal. He is going to be forced to flash away Icarus, but look at Evil Zara whittling down the Herald. That's going to be the objective. Going over to Fever. A lot of members still in this mid lane.
Yeah, I'm surprised to see that No Fear Wolves stepping up there, still trying to continue that fight. The entire time Epic Fail Guy, it's bottom side of the map. He's able to pick up a plating for himself, gets a lot of that farm, and then he's now shoving back into the turret. So you give over this Rift Herald to get some farm onto your CS, onto your AD carry here. A little bit of an unfortunate blast come, but the Dark Passage comes out there in order to bring Evilzard to this lane. But is it going to be enough to bring Epic Fail Guy back into this lane? He needs to get towards his first couple of items here. Really, that Divine Stunner being the main work. We have another engage on the mid side.
Ultimate's going to be used. Providence flashing away. Going to be able to survive the gank. Icarus, we have Dragon spawning in 14 seconds. Potentially the second one of the game on the board here for No Fear Wolves. Skiz going to be rotating down the bot lane. That's going to be an ace and hole flash away. Evils are trying to escape, trying to get out. Here is Zangi, but the health bar is getting real low. The ADC taken down. Evil Zara picked up here by a quick No Fear Wolves rotation, and they're headed straight for the Dragon.
Yeah, just a little bit of an early flash coming up from Evil Zara there. He wanted to get on top of that Dark Passage as quickly as possible, but RiceEveryMeal wasn't far enough away with the back half of that lantern that it was still easy for Skiz to be able to close the distance there and get on top of this Caitlyn, who didn't have the flash after he'd gone to use it on top of that lantern. Now it is going to be the Infernal Soul here for this first game of this series here between the two second place teams here. This is one of my personal favorite dragons to be able to jump past. I just love seeing the hyper aggression, the extra damage from that pseudo Luden's Tempest that you get in this game, and it's going to help so much here with the backline members of No Fear Wolves in particular, who are going to be constantly looking to throw out their skill shots and harass their opponents as we start moving towards this mid to late game, because they are the team that has 2 dragons already, so they are working towards that dragon soul point win condition.
Exactly. We do see Zongi here camping by the top blue side. Tri-brush, and Providence is headed up here as well. No ultimate on the kill, but Fever think they can make the 3v1 dive work. Cornstar getting real low, gonna try to flash away, but Providence comes sweeping in for the kill. Fever pulling off a clean dive.
My poor man, Cornstar on the top side, he was not allowed to move in that fight. You got double ultimates coming up, knocking him around, fearing him up. He's not allowed to play the game. It does mean that once Skiz comes over, he's going to be able to clear out this wave. The Rift Herald will be dropped just to be able to get those platings here with just about a minute and a half left before those go down. Well, it should be able to crash without any issues, and that will be donated over to the pockets of Stubby and Zongi. I personally would have liked to see that gold go over to Providence or Evil Zara instead. Because we keep mentioning this Kale and Caitlyn pick. They like to scale up here. Caitlyn is starting to hit that stage in the game where you don't have as much pressure as the likes of an Ezreal, who's picked up that Sheen that has that second component. And once this Divine Sunder is built here, it means that Epic Fail Guy is going to be able to slowly out-trade Evil Zara, because Caitlyn, early stages with the extra range is really, really nice. But once we start entering this mid game here, that's when we start having some questions around the pick, because you don't have the same amount of damage, and you really need to get onto 2, 3, even 4 items before Caitlyn's range starts to have even more impact in the very late stages of this game.
We do see Cute Raichu in the mid lane, able to actually pick up the Everfrost, while Skiz finding a pick in the bot lane. RiceEveryMeal not going to be able to lantern himself out of this one. Taken down. Cute Raichu coming down just in case. No dragon spawning just yet, Icarus, as Cute Raichu just wanted to be there for the team, but maybe they're going to be able to pull off this play onto Providence. Cornstar is here. Our ultimate is ready. Knocked up. Stun coming in. Shut down over to Cute Raichu. Providence just overstepping there.
And that is who you want to be giving over these shutdown golds to if you are No Fear Wolves here. Cute Raichu, This Veigar in the mid lane, we haven't really been able to talk about a whole lot because this guy's kind of been safely farming, enjoying himself, having a nice casual game of League of Legends. 1-0-1, even in farm with TL Providence, so not as much pressure as I would have liked to see out of this Veigar. Getting that shutdown goal is going to start accelerating him forward here. I like to see that he's also going with that unsealed spellbook built on the Veigar, giving him more summoner spells. And once he has this Everfrost, that's additional AP, I'm expecting that exactly there, the Ionian Boots of the City will coming in, so even more summoner spells here for cute Raichu. Typically speaking, this is where you just see a Rabadon's coming in, and that's when this Veigar comes online. He's going to start one-shotting everybody across the board. I'm going to click on him really quick. He is at 101 passive stacks so far, so already an additional 100 AP in his kit, and he's already starting to be able to one-shot those backline casters as we just saw there. So slowly but surely, this Veigar is not the only, Kale's not the only scaling mid laner in this game. This Veigar will eventually hit a point where Caitlyn just pops before they're able to do anything.
Yeah, I feel like we have two massive raid bosses gearing up, trying to take each other down. You got cute Raichu, the big bad Thanos purple looking guy over there, trying to get his big ol' hat on and try to get some AP here. In 35 seconds before this dragon, we see No Fear Wolves being aggressive. Zongi forced to smite away the blue buff for himself and Icarus. I really want to agree with your point about why Infernal Drake is so exciting, because Infernal Soul, super awesome to see explosive plays going on, but also if Fever are able to stack up a lot of these Infernal Drakes, they can certainly come back in the game in a really cool way.
Oh yeah, imagine a Caitlyn with 4 Infernal Dragons having that headshot alongside the burst of damage, and an RFC is going to be absolutely disgusting here. I like to see the inside posturing that has been set up already by No Fear Wolves here, but they can't allow for the side of Fever to make this engage happen. Dragon will be started up. That's a hook.
Joshbox forced to flash away. A huge engage coming through Fever. RiceEveryMeal hits the play, and everyone is getting taken down. No Fear Wolves massacred. Health bars low. Cornstar just gonna try to bring it back from the dead. Zongi survives the primordial blast. Epic Fail guy has to be careful. The dragon's getting real low. Ace in the hole coming out. Evils are not gonna be able to finish anyone off just yet. The fight's still going on. Smite secure from Zongi is going to give Fever the Drake, and they are right back in this one. They've got a huge gold lead and have stopped the Dragons from stacking.
What a phenomenal engagement coming out by the side of Fever. They find the hook on the squishiest member of No Fear Wolves, picking off Joshbox on this Karma. Sure, he doesn't go down, but when he doesn't have that Shrillia's Reverie built up yet, he doesn't have a full item set, just a full mythic item completed. It means that he's extremely squishy and just immediately forced out of that fight. You no longer have the Karma there to provide shields and this movement speed for your team, and that opens up an avenue for Zongi to get a 4-man onslaught of shadows. He dives into the back line, chunks everybody for half their health with this Divine Sunder Hecarim, and just absolutely decimates the team fight there. We only see one person go down at the end of the day, but most importantly, it is going to stop this dragon stacking from the side of No Fear Wolves. Picking up this third Drake of the game is so important here for Fever, because it doesn't just add 5 minutes, it adds 10 minutes to the timer here, because it means that you're not looking at this next dragon as the potential Infernal Soul. It means that we're gonna have to buy more time for this Orin, more time for this Kale, who are starting to come online. They're level 12 apiece here. Kale has that additional AoE. Orin is going to be very close to getting these ornament items here, MacDuet.
Absolutely, and we noticed, looking at the itemization a little bit, no Hole Breachers. Epic Fail guy caught out a little bit here. He's going to be able to Arcane Shift away, but both squads itemizing for these late game team fights. We better buckle up, because we've got a potential long one on our hands, Icarus. Both of these teams competing really well with no signs of slowing down.
With no major objective on board, this is going to be the one opportunity for these two teams to slow down. I do want to point out, Harold was picked up by the side of No Fear Wolves here, so one more objective in their pocket throughout this early game as we start to crest towards that 20-minute mark. Baron will be coming up in about a minute 10 here. Stub is doing a lot of work here into Cornstar. I think at some point he's going to have to pop that unstoppable onslaught, and there it is. He's just going to back away there. Now we have to look towards this mid lane, though. They look to be trying to go aggressively. RiceEveryMeal goes down, but it's not going to find much.
Doesn't finish off the mid turret, and Shelly gets sent right back into the void. No Fear Wolves crying a little bit after that one. Unfortunate for them not to be able to pick up the turret. Currently down 2-0 in the turret department, Icarus. And after that dragon fight, where do you think this squad has to try to go next?
I really think this is what Fever wants to be doing here. They just want to sit here and mindlessly farm waves. They want to sit here and just apply pressure with this Caitlyn onto the mid lane outer turret and just wait for the next objective to come up. They have no reason to overforce these fights, because I do think at the end of the day, level 16 on TL Providence with that 575 range is going to be massive. Getting those ornaments in is going to provide 1,000 gold a piece in terms of raw stats once you start to hit those level power spikes here for the side of Fever, and they have no reason to overforce, but it looks like they want to.
Skiz is caught out. He's going to try to flash away. Can he get out? The move speed. Zhongyi going to try to ghost right after him, but Skiz is surviving. But here's the ensuing fight. Stubby with the snipe, by the way. He's got a double kill. No Fear Wolves are getting taken down in the river. It's a huge stun from Cute Raichu. Can he turn it around? And well-timed ultimate from Providence is going to save RiceEveryMeal. Epic fail guy. ADCs, by the way, just gonna try to survive, and with so much DPS on the Rift Icarus, it's gonna be Fever pulling the trigger on Baron.
What a disastrous team fight there. Stubby, we thought that Caitlyn was the only sniper in this game, but he pulls out the long range horn. A Call of the Forge God is able to pick up Skiz at the very start of that fight there. He was caught off by the onslaught of shadows, and then TL Providence, a beautifully timed Divine Judgment to nullify that primordial burst. We didn't get a chance to talk about that interaction just quite yet, because we'd only seen a couple of ultimates out of this Kale so far, but it comes in at the exact moment we needed to see it there. We're not out of the woods just quite yet, MacDewey. 15 seconds on this next dragon. There is going to be a couple of key ultimates down here, such as that Divine Judgment. So this could be an opportunity where No Fear Wolves wants to try and make a play happen. They want to win this team fight, not just in order to get this third dragon, but to also take these Barons away.
Evil Zara looking to try to finish off this turret is going to succeed. The dragon started up here by Stubby. Cornstar has teleport, but Icarus, I think you're right. No Fear Wolves, after losing the Baron, just going to try to steal it with the True Shot Barrage. That comes up a little short, and that's going to be now 2 Infernal Dragons on the Fever squad that's already ahead.
That's a little unfortunate to see there. A bit of a sad moment for me, if you have to ask. I would have liked to see the side of No Fear Wolves try and contest that, because this is probably still one of the stages in the game where they're still going to be able to fight their opponents top side. This might be a punish.
Providence not going to be able to use that ultimate. It was off cooldown, and the pick coming up a little late, Icarus. Providence just trying to farm in the side lane after Dragon goes down. But the No Fear Wolves, they hunt as a pack, and they're going to try to pick up some prey wherever they can find it on the Rift.
I want to draw your attention to the itemization here on the bottom side of the map, because I just noticed that one of those new items, Gungeon and Camcom we're talking about, has been picked up here, but it's not the one that we've been talking about. It's actually the Athema's chains. Stubby here. And if I think about it, that's a little disgusting. You already have the brittle on this Ornn that makes CC last extra long, and now if you have that Vow also going in there, I can imagine that those brittle slapbacks are going to be a disgusting amount of CC from this Ornn. He's going to really be able to stick on whoever he is focusing here. You have a potential setup for a fight in this bottom side of the jungle. Both teams, they're really trying to pressure this bot lane inner turret here, but I don't think No Fear Wolves are going to give that one over for free. They're trying their best to stave off this Baron power play.
And they haven't lost any inner turrets. The gold lead has shrunk down a little bit to around 5.5K. I think it might be a little more. My math actually is a little bit off. Well, no, it's close to 6K. All right, mental math for Mac coming through a little bit, trying to do the numbers
okay. We're
quickly.
casters, not mathematicians.
But coming in on just about 5.5K gold lead for Fever. It was 7,000 just a little bit ago. In the Baron power play, not hugely game swinging, but you have Providence level 14 on the Kale. In Icarus, those recent adjustments of the range advantage, I mean, I think Fever is just going to be able to establish a wall of Stubby and Zongi and RiceEveryMeal and just fire away with the range advantage that they're going to be having.
Yeah, and we are starting to see those so critical moments in the game here for Fever being hit. Look at the itemization again here. We're talking about the Athamas chains, but we also have to talk about all the ornaments coming in. You have already the Gale Force being upgraded. Next should be that Rift Maker for TL Providence, who is level 15 on this Kale. So close to that level 16 range increases. One more time, Cornstar has really been getting bullied around on this Scion here. I was if anybody follows me on Twitter, I saw a Titanic Hydra Hole Breaker Scion in one of my games earlier today that went 2-14 but got inhibitor at 23 minutes. A disgusting build here with that potential split push, but it's going to be a fight started up here by No Fear Wolves. This might not be the one they want to go for.
Evil Zara is dealing a lot of damage and the headshots come through. Jushbox is immediately taken down. Cute Raichu not designed to TP, doesn't want any part of this. They still have the range advantage. Providence not level 16 just yet, but still dishing out quite well. And the hook connects. RiceEveryMeal does not miss. He gets another one. Cornstar and Skiz try and run for the hills, but the ace in the hole comes through. Skiz taking the bullet for Cornstar to survive, but Zongi's still going in. Zongi doesn't know when to stop. He gets the kill onto Cornstar. It's a 1-for-1 trade under the turret. 3-for-1 across the board.
Meanwhile, this entire time, Stubby's just chilling in the top side of the map. He's going to be able to find that turret for himself, and it's still a successful team fight here for the side of Fever. We needed to see some early game action coming out by No Fear Wolves here. We needed to see them find an early game lead, but it really just feels like they didn't pull far enough ahead. Sure, they were able to get a couple of dragons for themselves, but they were still losing these lanes despite the fact that they were matching scaling for scaling, and they were just getting tip for that. They were just losing some here, not able to find the leads that they needed to, especially when we saw that Cornstar early first Stubby. Epic fail guys fell down for that level 1 first blood on the bottom side of the map here. It is going to result in what's now a 9,000 gold lead here for the side of Fever, and another dragon spawning onto the map here could just potentially be going over again to Fever, and we're looking at both teams trying to contest this 3 dragons soul point to be contested here. It is No Fear Wolves
5 on 5. Here we go, Icarus. Buckle up. RiceEveryMeal gonna miss the hook. 5 on 5 front to back time. Stubby lands a 2-man knockup. That's going to start things off, trying to zone everyone away. Evil Zara healthy in the back. Epic fail guy as well. It's going to be a battle of the carries. Providence trying to take down the zombie. Right now it's 1 kill in favor for Fever. They're looking to get red hot here around the Infernal Dragon. They've got the objective control. They're gonna start dragging it out. Stubby trying to zone everybody else away. Cute Raichu looking for some sort of pick, but that's gonna be Zongi with yet another smite secure. 3 Infernal Dragons going over to Fever.
I think that team fight is just the tragedy of seeing the Divine Sunderer nerfs coming in hard and heavy here for Epic Fail Guy. There were so many times we saw him throwing Mystic Shot after Mystic Shot after Mystic Shot, and you would expect that with this Divine Sunder and Mirror Mana build that's been so strong and so prevalent over the past couple of weeks that he'd be chunking people out. But no, it felt like he was just tickling his opponents here. And when he's already behind here in the bottom side of the map, Evil Zara has 2.5 completed items, whereas Epic Fail Guy just completed his second one. It's not going to be enough damage here for the side of No Fear Wolves. Now, once again, Cornstar has been getting bullied around the map this entire time. The Ornn, who's been ahead this game, is also just so much tankier than this. Scion really feels like this game is slow. Really into a case of Fever slapping around their opponents with their wallets like they normally do once you start reaching these 25+ stages of the game.
Cornstar, the sub coming in for the No Fear Wolves, having a tough game against one of the top laners here in mid league for season number 3. Stubby showing just what he can do, even if you give him a tank. Baron's going to be started up here. Cute Raichu on the bottom side of the map does have TP available, but it's already at 3000 HP. It is already off the map. Baron secured by Zongi. Josh Box going to Shrelia's. Everybody away from the objective, as it feels like Fever are slowly but surely taking complete control.
And I'm pretty sure this is going to mean the end of the game here for Fever. They should be able to pick this one up. I'll buy a tragic couple of team fights coming in here, but look at the items. Look at the levels here for these solo laners on the side of Fever. Level 16 Kale and level 16 Ornn. The ornaments across 4 members of Fever. They're just going to use this Baron empowered minion with this coming into this top side of the map in order to pressure the lane into there. After that, I'd like to see, Stubby go to another side of the map and try and pressure here. Cage is putting in work, but it's not going to be enough here. Oh my god.
Providence already taken down one. Stubby with another awesome engage. Cornstar looking to deal some damage after dying. Zongi going in. It's a double kill for Providence. Make that a triple kill. He's popping off. Evil Zara picks up one. Fever are looking to pick up the ace. Cute Raichu barely able to escape, but the first inhibitor turret has been cracked with Baron buff online. Icarus, I think this could be game 1.
This is certainly going to be game 1 here. There's still 20 seconds, 15 seconds on Cornstar and Josh Box, 20 seconds on the other carry here. Easy dive coming in for the side of Fever. They're going to finish out this one in a fairly commanding fashion here. 13,000 gold in the lead. Triple Infernal Dragons and those level 16, level 17 power spikes coming in for the double scaling solo laners on the side of Fever. They played for the late game and they did a fantastic job of finding some early leads for themselves despite the composition being so focused on these later stages of the game.
Fever have exactly the game they were hoping to have with this exact composition. RiceEveryMeal on the Thresh, hitting some insane hooks. Evil Zara playing the Caitlyn perfectly. Zongi finding some good onslaughts of shadows into the back line, despite going under turret a couple times. No worries, still picking up the dub, still securing objectives. And Stubby on this Ornn. Providence on the kill, holding it down, surviving through the lane phase. Fever have a lot to be happy about after this first game.
And I'm curious to see what No Fear Wolves is going to be able to respond to this. We're talking in the pre-show game that No Fear Wolves is one of these teams that likes to play for scaling, especially with Cute Raichu on this FVR. Epic Fail Guy playing this Ezreal is another one of those scaling picks here with the tier build, but when you're not able to find any kind of early game leads for yourself and instead of just bleeding away advantages to another team that likes to play scaling on both their mid lane and AD carry role, it's very difficult to know how to approach these fights. And I think that's really the beauty of Fever's team here. You have a very aggressive jungler. You have a very aggressive top side of the map with Stubby, who was able to find some solo kills for himself into Cornstar. And meanwhile, TL Providence, Evil Zara, they're just scaling up the entire time. They hit their power spikes, they hit their item spikes, and sure enough, once those mid to late game team fights came around, they were playing them beautifully, using that divine judgment in order to save lives left and right on the side of TL Providence, and Evil Zara putting up some great DPS in those mid to late game team fights.
And for a further breakdown of that first game and maybe some predictions going into game 2, let's throw it on over to Cam and Gunjin on the analyst desk.
Cam. What a game number 1 from Fever, coming out absolutely swinging in game number 1 with that Kale pick, blind picking Kale, but the big man with a plan was Stubby on that Ornn pick. What a Smurf performance from him.
Absolutely. We got to see him absolutely smurf on that Orin with the new item as well. I'm not sure. I do believe he had it attached to Scion. It wasn't even Viger, it was that Scion, but doing so much damage to him in lane and out of lane and just having those insane teamfight ultimates. Really, really just so well played in game one.
Yeah, and it felt like it was Stubby from minute one. He was able to pick up the solo kill, but he was also able to make those beautiful engages with a massive Ornn ulti being set up by Rice's hook, kind of delaying any of that karma shielding and just making it so that when that third dragon came around, when it felt like Fever had to say, we're gonna contest this because if we don't, it's gonna be soul point, and then we're really in kind of a tough cookie situation, but they kind of cracked the code. Rice was able to land the hook, disrupt any of the escape ability, and then Stubby just lands a perfect ulti into Zongi's Hecarim ulti, and they were just able to wipe every single member. Great game from Fever, or great game one from Fever. Going into game two, what do you want No Fear Wolves to do in terms of adjustments or in terms of picks?
Well, I think game one, most of the fights were definitely around those dragons. The first two dragons going over to No Fear, and then I believe the last, I think it only went to 3 dragons, went over to Fever, those 3 Infernals for them. So game two, I'm definitely looking for No Fear Wolves with that early lead that they had in the dragons. They definitely didn't necessarily have that same early lead through gold or kills, but finding it through dragons and then maybe trying to play through the ocean, or not ocean, just the soul win con, hopefully could find them this win that they do need in game two.
Yeah, and I know this was something that me and you were talking about, was it felt like they didn't attack enough early on. They did obviously stack those 2 dragons early on, but
Yeah.
it felt like Kale wasn't really kind of attacked on in the mid lane. We did see times when Providence was getting caught out in the side lanes with 3-man collapses, but it felt like that ticking time bomb was just kind of waiting, and it absolutely just exploded in their face. And in game number 2, I really want to see, especially if you end up blind picking, I know they have it in them. They can play a little bit more aggressive because the Veigar did good work. But in terms of just having the aggression in the early game, when Fever pick a comp like that, where it's like massive front line that's going to just smurf in the top lane, hyper scaling mid lane, and then Zara's being able to kind of pressure in that early game. We were talking about kind of gold advantages. It felt like Zara was so far ahead in items versus Epic Fail Guy, and even the Veigar versus the Kale, that there just was no damage in those mid game team fights.
Yeah, I mean, back to bot lane though. Bot lane with Rice on that Thresh, finding that first hook, I believe it was either level 1 or level 2 for the early first blood, just in a 2v2 alone, and then finding those hooks later on into the game, during those dragon fights, especially as they would stand trying to dance around those dragons for 30 seconds, and then Rice lands that hook onto the Karma, onto the Ezreal, onto whoever else he needs to land it, and that just immediately turns the fight in their favor. Finding those kills, like you were saying, that they needed on the Kale, on the Ornn, on the Caitlyn, just whoever they needed to have those kills. It was just so good with those hooks.
See, I feel like they can always tell what roles we play, because whenever I see a game, I'm like, the AD carry popped off, and then Cameron like, supports matter, Rice did something. He definitely did do something. He would be my MVP if not for Stubby's amazing performance in game number 1. And we kind of highlighted another item we were talking about, Aneath. I don't know how to pronounce this item. I barely used it. Anathema's Chain, the one that makes you sad as a as a side laner, as an AD carrier, because Stubby, I was talking about it. It felt like Stubby was playing Earth in game number 1, where he was like brittle CC extension, Anathema Chain CC extension. You can't move. I'm just gonna slowly whittle you down. And it felt like Sign always was forced to get out of lane. Stubby even got first tower, and I was like, that doesn't matter. Ornn getting solo tower gold, who cares? It mattered. Stubby made sure that gold lead was effective and useful, and he had a great game number 1.
Absolutely. I mean, we were not expecting solo kills in this top lane matchup. Who could expect solo kills in a Scion versus Ornn matchup? But I just gotta say, boy, were we wrong. So many kills just on his own, and then with the help of his jungler as well, the Hecarim just absolutely demolishing this top lane. Just Scion not really getting to play whatsoever, especially with that item that makes you sad on him as well.
Yeah, and while we are kind of transitioning into game two, I do want to mention some of the matches around the league. We were talking about Degenerates Reform versus Shadowblade Slash. In game number one for Degenerates Reform versus Shadowblade Slash, Degenerate Reform actually picked up the win. They had a pretty dominant win, 22-8, with Sovereign actually picking out the jungle Rammus. You know, we talked about his Skarner play, but here's another one. You know,
All
all of
right.
these all of as a lower brain jungler. You know, I like to press R on somebody and CC them and hope my team does something. I feel like Sovereign is, you know what he said? Skarner's going to be banned out. Time for the Rammus. And he got in there, made them pay, picks up game number one for Degenerates Reform. And Bucky's also picking up the 1-0 versus Death Cards Academy with a amazing game from Array where he actually went Divine Sunder, Essence Reaver, and Nashor's Tooth. Can you guess what champion Array is even playing in that game?
Ezreal? I don't know.
Come on. Divine Sunderer, Essence Reaver, Nashor's Tooth, a jungler. What
Oh.
item bingo are we playing in this game? What do you
Wait,
think?
don't tell me. I actually want to
Okay.
think about this. Nashor's Tooth. Is it Viego?
No, it's not Viego. Nashor's
Okay.
Tooth. It's somewhat effective of an item, but it's not like, you know, the greatest item we've
Is
ever
it
seen.
Vi?
It's actually Xin Zhao.
No, wouldn't I'm
I love talking about
Viego was a
itemization
good
with
guess.
Xin Zhao.
The
I
other
love talking-
items make sense.
Yeah. I love the items with Xin Zhao because it feels like with Xin Zhao you could build every single mythic
Yes.
under the sun and you're like, it kind of works. So again, great game from the side of Bucky Stratosphere to take game number one versus Death Cards Academy. We will be keeping you up with all of the games that are happening tonight, but back to this game. We are going to get into draft in a little bit, but we are going to have some words with RiceEveryMeal, who picked up the win in game number one, and talking about kind of his role on the team and his thoughts going into this matchup versus No Fear Wolves. Be right back with the draft.
Looking at this week, you guys are looking to solidify your second place team. We've had multiple hype series over the past couple of weeks. Today is looking to be one of probably the most intense days for games being played here. You guys are looking to be solidifying your second place team. I know that also lower in the brackets, we have Shadowblade Slash and Degenerates Reform fighting for that 6th spot, that final playoff spot. I do want to ask from your perspective though, how are you guys feeling about coming into this series today versus No Fear Wolves, another team that's tied up at 13-5 apiece here at the top of the brackets?
13-5. Yeah, I mean, we've been scoring well. Oops, my bad. I dropped my phone. Yeah, we've been scoring pretty well. I'd say going into the match, we're pretty confident. Like I said in the for the CBR series, I feel like if we get ahead in the early game, like we pretty much roll with it. Even then, we know how to come from behind, and I think we're just a stronger team in general. And I think our cohesion is definitely a lot better since past couple of weeks. So I think we'll do good.